Good afternoon, everyone. This is just a quick intro into today's video. For today, I just did some deadheading of our salvia and our prunella that I planted out front of our house this spring. They've done really well. They've bloomed throughout the season with proper deadheading, and I've been very happy with how they've performed. I'm also trimming up some euonymus as well as a Barbary that had grown a little bit too woolly. They are pretty prominently displayed in front of our home. They're along our driveway. Long term, they'll probably be relocated, but for now, I just try to keep them in good shape so that our neighbors don't have to look at an eyesore. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, please like and subscribe. I hope you join us on our adventure to make sense of this house and this property. It is every gardener's favorite time. It's time to do garden chores vicariously through YouTube videos. I started off by deadheading the salvia. I tend to wait until the entire flower stalk is spent so that the bees are no longer feeding on it before I trim it off. I then move on to the prunella, and deadheading prunella and salvia are both very similar for each plant. What you want to start doing is going to the spent flower head, going down to the first set of leaves, finding the new budding flower head beneath that, and cutting off the spent flower head just above that. Regular deadheading like this allows the plant to put its energy into new flower heads rather than the spent flower heads. For me, finding the spent flower heads is easiest by feel. The spent flower heads are crispy, while the new fleshy flower heads are more soft. There are also color differences between the spent and the new flower heads, but for me, doing it by feel is the easiest way and quickest way to do this. Whenever I am doing regular maintenance on any of my plants, I also check them over for pests, disease, or breakage before moving on. I then pick up all of my clippings because you don't usually want to leave your clippings around both aesthetically as well as for disease management, and I take those to the burn or the compost pile. I am then ready to move on to the barberry bushes. To trim up the barberry bushes, I use an electric hedge trimmer. It is late summer here in Oregon, which means we can have some extreme heat weather events, so it's not typically recommended to trim up barberries during this time of year. I did check the weather forecast, and we are not due to have any extreme heat events in the next couple of weeks, so I felt pretty safe trimming up the barberries at this time. These barberry bushes have been a work in progress for several years. I will throw a picture up on the screen now to show you what it looked like when we first moved in. They were overgrown. They were grown together so much that we actually didn't know there were three of them. We thought there was just one large one, and they were covered in weeds, tall grass, and dead plants. I actually prefer their natural shape more than this ball shape or meatball shape, but where they are currently at is right next to our driveway, right in front of our house, and I don't want the neighbors to have an eyesore in front of our house that they have to look at every day. I also feel that aesthetically they would look better full grown in a bed that has more room rather than right next to our driveway. A word of caution for anyone working with barberries: they have thorns. I highly recommend having gloves and pants, and for me, long sleeves are also a must to prevent getting poked by the stickers. After I'm done shaping the barberries, I fuss in the beds a bit. I can't help it. I'm behind on my weeding. I'm always behind on my weeding, but now I'm really behind because I went on vacation for a week, and as we all know, weeds never take a vacation. I then start in on the smallest euonymus. I'm fairly certain this one is just a runner off of the larger one next to it. I am not yet 100% sure what I want to do with any of these bushes long term. I think they will likely be transplanted into a bed where they can grow to their full potential and they don't have to be trimmed up as much or as frequently. But for now, they were planted by the previous owners right next to our driveway, right in front of our house, and I feel it's a responsible thing to do to keep them a little more maintained and a little more sightly. As I finish up the remaining euonymus, I am noticing all of the weeds in the bed that I missed, and so after I'm done with that one, I fuss a bit more, and I am constantly battling back what is known as spotted spurge, and that is the scourge of my existence in these beds. It just never goes away. It's a nasty bugger, and I cannot seem to get rid of it, no matter what I do. I then accept defeat for the day against the Battle of the Weeds, and I start in on the final euonymus. Again, this one was also planted really close to our driveway. I'm not really sure what the plan was when it was planted this close to our driveway because they can get quite large, and I would prefer not to have to trim them as frequently as I do. I do really like the look of them though, and I'm excited to transplant them into a space that they're more suited for. I am a big fan of using life whenever it's available rather than killing it. So if I can transplant something instead of flat out killing it, I will always do that first. I did that with 20-year-old Nandina or Heavenly Bamboo that were right in front of our door, and it worked out really well for us. When I am done with all the trimming, I bring in a leaf blower and I blow out the trimmings from the bed. This is actually a hack that I learned from the Garden Answer channel, and it works really well for us. This blower is not a heavy-duty blower, and the mulch we have is a heavy-duty mulch, so it works out quite well for us. Your mileage may vary. But for us and our garden beds, it works out really well to just blow out the trimmings and leave the mulch where it is in the beds. I then blow it all into a pile. I usually have some sort of container that I put these in and carry them back to our burn or our compost pile, but this time I did not. So instead I opted to just pick them up by hand and carry them out to our compost pile. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you're procrastinating your own garden chores, I hope that it helped in that, and I also hope it helped motivate you to get out there and start working on your own space and maybe tackle those chores that you've been avoiding.